Hi, I'm Brandon. I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. Today I want to talk about the difference between consistency, rigidity, and why consistency is important in recovery. So in my addiction, I was very rigid about the way things happened in my life. I had to get up every morning at a particular time so I could get as much, so I could get as high or as many drinks in me as possible before I had to go about and do my business for the day, whatever that was for the day. I had specific things that I did, either books I read or games that I played on my phone during that time, music I listened to. I had very specific things that I did. And then when I was done with work for the day, I also was very rigid about what I wanted to spend my time doing. It was it was usually revolved around drugs or alcohol. And if I did not get access to do that, that caused anxieties in me, that caused a little bit of fear, it caused irritability. So this rigid way of living created a lot of discomfort for me. And I thought that, the comfort that I got from living that way, from, you know, having access to time to get high or get drunk, I thought that was what was worth the irritability that I would have otherwise. But in reality, it created this situation where my life was just a roller coaster. One minute I'd be happy, one minute I'd be pissed off, one minute I'd be irritable, one minute I'd be totally fine. And most of the time I spent wishing that I was doing something different. Most of the time was like that, you know. And so the rigidity did not help at all. And when unexpected things came up, it was a big deal. It would cause me a lot of anxiety when something unexpected came up. I mean, when I was asked to work late, or something like that happened, it caused a lot of negative feelings for me. And so I've heard from other people who are in recovery that during their addiction, they were the opposite. They had no form whatsoever and just did whatever the hell sounded good at the moment. And so we have complete rigidity where, I wanted things to happen in a very specific way, in a very specific time. And if it didn't happen that way, I kind of went off the rails. And then we have the opposite end of the spectrum, which is just complete, no boundaries whatsoever, just doing whatever comes along. And where I think I have found the most success in recovery is being in the middle with consistency and consistency and fluidity. These things combine together. So with consistency, I've got several things that I do on a daily basis, no matter what's going on. This video is one of them. Prayer and meditation in the morning, that's one of them. These things take about 45 minutes. It's typically, I'm able to get up and get that done before the rest of the day even starts. At night, I take inventory of the day, look back, see, do I owe any apologies? Was there anything I did that was selfish that I need to go back and rethink the way that I handled it, that kind of thing. Otherwise, I try to maintain fluidity where, if something comes up and I have plans, I change them. If someone calls and needs help, I drop what I'm doing. If it's something that doesn't cause problems for another person, for me to do that, I drop what I'm doing to help them out. And I think that's been one of the most successful attitudes for me to have in recovery is this idea that I've got to be consistent with the things that I do to maintain my recovery, but I've also got to be fluid enough to respond to life on life's terms. And that's a phrase we hear a lot in 12-step programs. And it's a phrase that is very important to me, that we accept life on life's terms, not our terms. Life is not going to bend to my will. I need to be able to bend to the will of life. And, usually if something unexpected happens, then it's easy to just deal with that and then get back on with whatever you were doing, as opposed to the way I used to live, which was when something unexpected happened. I was living such a rigid life that it caused me all sorts of anxieties and irritability and problems, and I couldn't accept it when something unexpected happened. It just drove me crazy because it didn't fit the rigid idea that I had about the way I needed to be living that particular day, or what I wanted out of that particular day. So now I think the key for me has been a consistent practice that allows for flexibility, that allows for fluidity. That's also important for people who are starting at the other end of the spectrum, where they had no form to their life. They had no boundaries. They just did whatever felt right at the moment. Getting a little consistency in your life helps to create those boundaries and helps you start to become familiar with boundaries so that you're able to create them in other situations as well, with relationships, at work, things like that, with family. Because believe it or not, creating boundaries in life is also a very important part of recovery and just healthy living in general. But they need to be reasonable boundaries, and getting some kind of consistent practice in terms of the things you do on a daily basis helps you learn what healthy boundaries look like. So consistency, but fluidity is the key to me. And that's helped me move from being a very rigid person who could turn irritable like that if something happened in life that went against my plans, to being a person who I think is learning to go with the flow a lot more than I've ever been able to. And that's what I always wanted to be. I always wanted to be cool, calm, collected, go with the flow, take life as it comes. But I couldn't figure out how to get there, no matter how much weed I smoked, until I put it down, started living a sober life, and realized that maybe I can let go of some of the things that I had been keeping me so rigid and preventing me from getting where I wanted to be. That's it for today. I'll be back here tomorrow with more. Have a good one.